You know that feeling when someone smiles at you, but something about it makes your skin crawl? That's exactly how I felt every time Jade Williams looked at me. She'd flash this perfect, practiced smile whenever she saw me at my husband's company events, but her eyes told a completely different story. What she didn't know was that while she was busy plotting against my family, I held the power to destroy her career with a single phone call. Because you see, I wasn't just Samuel's wife, I was the anonymous investor who owned 40% of the company she worked for. My name is Mia Chen Hartley, and I'm 35 years old. I live in Austin, Texas, with my husband Samuel Hartley, who's a brilliant software engineer at a fast-growing tech startup called Innovate Tech Solutions. What Samuel doesn't know, what nobody at his company knows, is that I'm the silent partner who helped fund their entire operation 2 years ago. I made my money in cryptocurrency investments back when Bitcoin was still under $1,000, and I've been quietly building a portfolio of tech investments ever since. Samuel and I met 5 years ago at a coffee shop near the University of Texas campus. He was working on his laptop, debugging code for a freelance project, and I was reading investment reports on my tablet. We struck up a conversation about technology and entrepreneurship, and I was immediately drawn to his passion for innovation and his complete lack of pretension. Here was this incredibly talented guy who had no idea how brilliant he was, working for peanuts because he believed in building something meaningful rather than chasing money. When we got married 3 years ago, I made a conscious decision to keep my financial success private, not because I didn't trust Samuel, but because I'd seen too many relationships destroyed by money. I wanted him to love me for who I was, not what I could provide. I also wanted him to build his own career based on his merit, not because his wife could write checks to make things easier. So I lived modestly, drove a reasonable car, and let everyone assume I was just another mid-level marketing consultant working from home. The irony is that while I was trying to protect our relationship from the complications of wealth, I was actually creating a situation where someone like Jade could try to exploit what she perceived as my vulnerability. She saw a quiet, unassuming wife who seemed to have no power or influence in her husband's professional world. She thought she could manipulate the situation to her advantage, push me aside, and claim what she wanted. What Jade didn't realize was that her fake smiles and calculated kindness were being directed at the one person who could end her career before she even knew what hit her. Sometimes the most dangerous people in the room are the ones who look like they have the least power. And sometimes, the biggest mistake you can make is underestimating someone just because they choose to stay quiet. Life in Austin had been everything Samuel and I had hoped for when we moved here from San Francisco 3 years ago. The tech scene was booming, the cost of living was reasonable, and the culture felt more authentic than the artificial startup atmosphere we'd left behind. Samuel had joined Innovate Tech Solutions as their lead software engineer, and he absolutely loved the work. The company was developing revolutionary data analytics software for healthcare systems, and Samuel was passionate about the potential to save lives through better technology. Our routine was comfortable and fulfilling. Samuel would leave for work at 8:30 every morning, energized and excited about whatever project he was tackling. I'd work from our home office, managing my investment portfolio and consulting for a few select clients who thought I was just another freelance marketing strategist. In the evenings, we'd cook dinner together while Samuel told me about his day, the technical challenges he'd solved, the progress his team was making, and yes, the office dynamics and personalities he dealt with every day. That's how I first heard about Jade Williams. She joined Innovate Tech as a marketing manager about 8 months ago, and from Samuel's descriptions, she seemed competent and ambitious. "She's really sharp," he'd tell me. "Great at presentations, knows how to talk to investors. The CEO loves her ideas for expanding our client base." I was happy that Samuel was working with talented people who shared his vision for the company's future. My first in-person meeting with Jade came at Innovate Tech's annual company barbecue last summer. The event was held at Zilker Park, and Samuel was excited to introduce me to his colleagues. Most of the team was exactly what I expected: smart, friendly tech workers who were passionate about their projects and welcoming to spouses and families. But when Samuel introduced me to Jade, something felt off, immediately. She was stunning in that polished, professional way that takes serious effort to maintain perfect makeup, designer clothes that looked casual but probably cost more than most people's rent, and a confidence that commanded attention. When Samuel said, "Jade, this is my wife Mia," she looked me up and down with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, Mia. I've heard so much about you," she said, extending a manicured hand. "Samuel talks about you constantly. It must be so nice to have a husband who's so devoted." The way she said devoted made it sound like a weakness rather than a virtue. But Samuel didn't catch the subtle dig, and I wasn't going to create drama at his company event, so I smiled politely and made small talk about Austin and the weather. Throughout the afternoon, I noticed Jade watching Samuel with an intensity that went beyond professional interest. When he laughed at other people's jokes, when he helped set up tables and chairs, when he played frisbee with some of the younger employees, she was always observing, always calculating. And whenever she caught me noticing her attention, she'd flash that same cold smile and look away. The most unsettling moment came when Samuel went to get us drinks from the cooler. Jade appeared beside me almost instantly, as if she'd been waiting for him to leave. "You're so lucky to have found someone like Samuel," she said, her voice honey, sweet. "He's going places in this company. Really impressive trajectory." "I think he's pretty great," I replied simply. "Of course you do. It must be exciting, being married to someone with so much potential." Again, that loaded way of speaking that made normal words sound threatening. I was starting to understand that Jade Williams was not what she appeared to be. Over the next few months, Jade's behavior became increasingly troubling. At first, it was subtle lingering touches on Samuel's arm during meetings, volunteering to work late with him on Samuel's arm, projects, suggesting lunch meetings that seemed more social than professional. Samuel, being naturally friendly and focused on work, didn't seem to recognize the pattern. When I gently mentioned my concerns, he brushed them off. "Jade's just enthusiastic about the company," he'd say. "She's probably trying to network and build relationships. That's what good marketing people do." But I could see what Samuel couldn't or wouldn't. Jade was systematically positioning herself as his closest ally at work, while simultaneously undermining anyone she perceived as competition. I started paying closer attention at company events, watching how she interacted with other employees, especially the women. The breaking point came at Innovate Tech's holiday party in December. The event was at a upscale restaurant downtown, and I dressed up for the occasion, a simple but elegant black dress that I'd splurged on for the evening. Samuel looked handsome in his navy suit, and I was looking forward to celebrating his team's successful year. Everything changed when I overheard Jade talking to a group of employees at the bar. I'd gone to the restroom and was walking back when I heard my name mentioned. Hidden behind a decorative pillar, I listened in shock as Jade painted a picture of my marriage that was completely fictional. "I feel so bad for Samuel," she was saying to 3 other employees. "His wife is clearly holding him back. Did you see her car? It's like 10 years old. And the way she dresses, I mean, no judgment. But if my husband was making Samuel's salary, I'd at least try to look the part." One of the other women, Linda from accounting, looked uncomfortable. "I think Mia seems really nice." "And what does her car matter?" Jade laughed, but it sounded harsh. "Come on, Linda. We all know Samuel could do better. He's brilliant. He's handsome. He's going to be running this company someday. And he's stuck with someone who clearly doesn't appreciate what she has. I bet she doesn't even understand what he does for work." "That seems pretty harsh," said Mike from the development team. "Maybe they're just private people." Private or not, when you're married to someone with Samuel's potential, you need to step up. Support his career, make connections, help him climb the ladder. Instead, she just sits at home doing, what? Some freelance marketing thing? It's honestly kind of sad. I felt my face burning with anger and humiliation. Not because Jade's assessment hurt my feelings. I knew exactly who I was and what I was worth. but because she was actively trying to sabotage my marriage by planting seeds of doubt about my value in the minds of Samuel's colleagues. The conversation continued with Jade suggesting that Samuel needed someone more ambitious and dynamic in his life, someone who could match his energy and vision. It wasn't hard to read between the lines about who she thought that someone should be. When I returned to Samuel's side, I was shaking with rage. But I couldn't tell him what I'd overheard, without revealing that I'd been eavesdropping. Instead, I spent the rest of the evening watching Jade work the room, charming investors, impressing executives, and making sure everyone knew how indispensable she was to the company's success. That night, lying awake next to Samuel, I realized that Jade Williams wasn't just attracted to my husband, she was actively trying to destroy our marriage to clear a path for herself. And she thought she could get away with it because she saw me as powerless, irrelevant, someone who could be easily pushed aside. She had no idea what a massive mistake she was making. The morning after the holiday party, I made a decision that would change everything. I couldn't sit quietly and watch Jade manipulate her way into my husband's life while systematically destroying my reputation among his colleagues. But I also couldn't confront her directly without looking like a jealous, paranoid wife. I needed to be strategic, and I needed to use the one advantage I had, that she knew nothing about my financial stake in her company. First, I did what I should have done months ago. I conducted a thorough background check on Jade Williams. Using the same private investigation firm I employed for due diligence on my investments, I discovered some interesting facts about Innovate Tech's rising star. Her resume, while impressive, contained several embellishments. The successful marketing campaigns she claimed credit for had actually been team efforts where she'd marginalized other contributors. The industry awards she mentioned were participation certificates from conferences, not recognition for excellence. More troubling was her pattern of behavior at previous companies. Jade had a history of targeting successful men in leadership positions, creating professional relationships that became inappropriately personal, and leaving behind a trail of workplace drama and broken relationships. She'd been quietly let go from her last two positions, though the companies had been careful to avoid creating a paper trail that could lead to legal issues. Armed with this information, I scheduled a meeting with David Kim, Innovate Tech CEO, under the pretense of discussing my continued investment in the company. David knew me as MC Holdings, the anonymous investor who'd provided crucial seed funding 2 years earlier. He had no idea that the MC stood for Mia Chen, or that I was married to one of his employees. "Miss Chen, it's always a pleasure," David said as we met in his downtown office. "I hope you're pleased with our progress this quarter." "Very pleased," I replied. "Which is why I wanted to discuss some concerns I have about maintaining the company's professional culture and protecting our investment." I laid out my observations about workplace dynamics, team morale, and the importance of ensuring that all employees felt valued and respected. I didn't mention Jade by name, but I made it clear that I'd been hearing troubling reports about interpersonal conflicts and unprofessional behavior that could damage the company's reputation and productivity. "I'd like you to conduct a thorough review of management practices and employee satisfaction," I said, "particularly in departments where there might be personality conflicts affecting team cohesion." David assured me that he took these concerns seriously and would investigate immediately. As the company's largest external investor, my opinion carried significant weight in strategic decisions, but I wasn't finished. Over the next 2 weeks, I carefully documented every instance of Jade's inappropriate behavior that I could verify. I reached out to former colleagues at her previous companies, gathered testimonials about her pattern of workplace manipulation, and built a comprehensive case that went far beyond jealousy or personal vendetta. The most damning evidence came from Linda, in accounting, who finally felt comfortable reporting that Jade had been pressuring her to provide confidential salary information about male employees, claiming it was for equity analysis, but clearly intending to use it for personal gain. Meanwhile, Samuel remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around him. He continued to work with Jade professionally, never suspecting that she was actively trying to undermine his marriage or that his wife was systematically dismantling her career behind the scenes. The irony wasn't lost on me. While Jade thought she was playing a sophisticated game of manipulation and seduction, she was actually walking into a trap set by someone with far more power and resources than she could imagine. The final piece of my plan involved revealing my true identity at exactly the right moment, when Jade would be most confident and least prepared for the truth. The moment I'd been waiting for came at Innovate Tech's quarterly investor meeting in February. David had invited all department heads to present their progress reports to the company's funding partners, and Jade had volunteered to give the marketing presentation. She'd been working on it for weeks, seeing it as her opportunity to impress the mysterious investors and solidify her position as a rising star in the company. Samuel was also presenting, showcasing the technical innovations his team had developed. I watched from the back of the conference room as he delivered a brilliant presentation about their breakthrough in data processing algorithms. He was confident, articulate, and passionate about the work, everything that had made me fall in love with him in the first place. When Jade took the stage, she was in full performance mode. Designer suit, perfect hair, a presentation deck that looked like it belonged in a Fortune 500 boardroom. She spoke confidently about market penetration, customer acquisition costs, and revenue projections, occasionally glancing toward the Care New Protions, Dadu Pays section where she assumed the important investors were sitting. "Our marketing strategy has exceeded all expectations," she announced. "Under my leadership, we've expanded our client base by 300% and increased brand recognition by 45%. I've personally cultivated relationships with key industry leaders who are excited about partnering with Innovate Tech moving forward." She was taking credit for work that multiple people had contributed to, spinning team achievements as personal victories. But what really got my attention was what she said next. "I believe the key to our continued success lies in ensuring that our leadership team reflects the innovative, forward-thinking values that our investors expect. Sometimes that means making difficult decisions about personnel who might not be aligned with our growth trajectory." She was actually using a company presentation to suggest that Samuel, and potentially others, should be replaced or marginalized. The audacity was breathtaking. When the presentations ended, David invited investors to ask questions and provide feedback. Several legitimate investors spoke first, offering congratulations and discussing future funding rounds. Then I stood up from my seat in the back of the room. "I have some concerns about the marketing department's approach to team leadership and professional conduct," I said clearly. Jade's eyes snapped to me, probably wondering why Samuel's frumpy wife was speaking at an investor meeting. She still hadn't put the pieces together. David looked slightly confused but gestured for me to continue. "Miss Chen, please share your thoughts." The moment Jade heard my name associated with investment authority, I watched the blood drain from her face. She was smart enough to start doing the math. MC Holdings, Mia Chen, Samuel's wife, who supposedly did freelance marketing from home. "As the primary investor in this company," I continued, "I'm deeply concerned about reports of workplace harassment, professional misconduct, and deliberate attempts to damage team cohesion for personal gain." The room was dead silent. Samuel's mouth was hanging open as he realized what was happening. Jade looked like she might faint. "I've conducted a thorough investigation into management practices in the marketing department, and I've discovered a pattern of behavior that's completely unacceptable in any professional environment. This includes spreading false information about colleagues' personal lives, attempting to access confidential salary data, and creating a hostile work environment for multiple employees." I walked to the front of the room and handed David a folder containing all the evidence I'd gathered. "I think you'll find these documents very illuminating regarding Miss Williams' conduct and qualifications." Jade finally found her voice. This is ridiculous." "You can't be serious. Samuel, tell them who your wife really is." Samuel, still processing the process, 280 in every into 7. The revelation that I was Innovate Tech's major investor, looked at Jade with new understanding. "I think," he said slowly, My wife has told you exactly who she is." The meeting ended with David announcing that there would be a full investigation into the allegations, but we all knew Jade's career at Innovate Tech was over. As she packed up her presentation materials with shaking hands, Jade looked at me one final time. "You planned this," she said. "No," I replied. "I just responded to it." There's a difference. The fallout from the investor meeting was swift and decisive. Within 48 hours, David had completed his investigation, confirming everything I'd documented and discovering additional instances of Jade's misconduct that other employees had been afraid to report. Jade Williams was terminated immediately, with the company citing serious violations of professional conduct and misrepresentation of qualifications in her dismissal letter. More importantly, for the long-term health of Innovate Tech, the investigation revealed systemic issues with how workplace complaints were handled and how new employees were vetted. David implemented new policies to ensure that no one else could create the kind of toxic environment Jade had fostered. The conversation I had with Samuel that evening was one of the most important of our marriage. He was hurt that I'd kept my financial success secret for so long, but he also understood why I'd made that choice. "I fell in love with you for your mind and your heart," he told me. "Knowing that you're also brilliant with money just makes me love you more. I was afraid you'd feel diminished if you knew I could have made your career easier," I admitted. "I wanted you to succeed on your own merit." "But you did help my career," Samuel pointed out. "You invested in a company that you believed in, partly because you believed in the work we were doing. That's not charity, that's smart business." He was right, of course. My investment in Innovate Tech wasn't just about supporting Samuel, it was about recognizing the potential in their technology and team. The fact that it also created a stable environment for my husband's career was just a bonus. 2 weeks later, David offered Samuel a promotion to Chief Technology Officer, a position that had been created to recognize his contributions and leadership potential. Samuel accepted immediately, though he made sure to clarify that his wife's investment status had played no role in his decision-making process. "Actually," David laughed, "your wife's investigation probably saved the company from a sexual harassment lawsuit down the road. If anything, we owe her a debt of gratitude." As for Jade, I heard through industry contacts that she'd had difficulty finding another position in Austin's tech scene. Word travels fast in professional communities, and her reputation for workplace manipulation had followed her. Last I heard, she'd moved to Dallas to start over, in a different market. The most unexpected outcome of this entire situation was how it changed my relationship with transparency and power. I realized that hiding my success hadn't protected my marriage. It had actually made my family vulnerable to manipulation by people like Jade, who thrived on perceived weakness. Samuel and I now work together more openly, with him consulting on my tech investments and me providing strategic insight for Innovate Tech's growth. Our marriage is stronger because we're finally being completely honest about all aspects of our lives. Looking back, I learned that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let people underestimate you right up until the moment you reveal who you really are. Jade's fake smiles and calculated kindness were directed at someone she thought was powerless. Her biggest mistake wasn't trying to steal my husband, it was assuming that quiet people have nothing important to say. Sometimes the person sitting quietly in the back of the room is the one who holds all the cards, and sometimes the best revenge isn't getting mad, it's revealing that you had the power all along. Today, Samuel and I are happier and more successful than ever. And every time I see his name on his office door, Samuel Hartley, Chief Technology Officer, I smile, knowing that he earned that title through talent, hard work, and integrity. No manipulation required.